Hello and welcome to the Beat Cancer Answer, brought to you by BeatCancer.Org, the Center for Advancement in Cancer Education. We believe that 90% of all cancers could be eliminated through environmental and lifestyle choices alone, and science agrees. Unfortunately, most people don't know it, so we provide the education that can help you prevent, cope with, and beat cancer through diet, lifestyle, and other immune-boosting approaches. On every podcast, we will feature an expert who can teach us how to become part of that 90% who could prevent getting diagnosed with cancer. If you already have cancer, we have empowering information for you too. Over the past 35 years, we have helped thousands of cancer patients get back into the driver's seat when it comes to their personal journey of healing cancer and preventing future reoccurrence. Listen now as BeatCancer.Org Educational Director Dr. Susan Silberstein interviews Beth Schroeder about her personal cancer success story and how what she learned is helping her help others.
This is Susan Silberstein, and I'm happy to have as my guest today Beth Schroeder, Master's of Science, Certified Nutrition Specialist. Beth earned a Master of Science degree in Nutrition and Integrative Health from Maryland University of Integrative Health in Laurel, Maryland. As part of this 2-year clinical nutrition program, Beth's thesis on whole plant foods and their effect on metastatic cancer survival included a client case study with a review of current research in the field of epigenetics for understanding nutritional intervention alongside standard cancer intervention protocols. Beth is a certified nutrition specialist practitioner and is certified in plant-based nutrition through Cornell University and the T. Colin Campbell Foundation. Owner of Simply Health, LLC since 2009, Beth works in private practice supporting patients with chronic conditions to make dietary and lifestyle changes by teaching them plant-based food patterns through workshops and individualized coaching. A breast cancer survivor herself, Beth brings both passion and dedication to improving her clients' quality of life, nutritional intake, food patterns, and vitality. Beth is an engaging speaker who inspires and educates about chronic health challenges and the benefits of diet and lifestyle changes. Beth is also certified as a holistic cancer support educator through Beat Cancer's certification program. Welcome, Beth.
Thank you, Susan. It's good to be here.
I'm just delighted to be able to interview you today. And let's start by talking about your own cancer journey. I believe you were diagnosed about 18 years ago.
That's correct. And it was quite a journey. I was a young mom of 4 children. My youngest was 5. My oldest had just turned 13. So it was a pretty dramatic interruption to the entire family.
Oh,
and I need to add, it was a complete surprise. I'm guessing that there are a lot of cancer patients that feel surprised because of the way they live. They're healthy, they exercise, they eat right, or at least they think they do. I know that's how I felt. Mm-hmm. I knew I was on a health path, and then literally out of nowhere, I was blindsided by a very aggressive cancer diagnosis that had, from my oncologist team point of view, gave me about 2 years of survival before any metastasis would occur that would be even more difficult. Not good.
No.
So my journey at that point was to, number one, figure out, what are they talking about? The language of oncology can be overwhelming, and I had a whole lot of catching up very quickly to understand options for chemotherapy, surgery, oh my goodness, something called mastectomy, and not just understanding it, but taking it in to what that does to you emotionally, physically, and in every way that matters, not only as a woman, as a mother. There was a lot of debilitation that entered in. But it was when I started chemotherapy that I had a conversation with my oncologist that started me looking for something different. And I asked him, I said, where does this cancer come from? And he said, well, we don't really know, which is true. They don't really know. It's not in my family genetic. I tended to eat well. I breastfed all my babies, no alcohol, no smoking. Those things were not on my checklist of why. But he did make one statement about food. And he says, well, this cancer, most hormone-fed cancers like breast cancer, prostate cancer, he says they're hormone-fed. And you do know that there's hormones, added to our food, and we're not sure if that makes a difference. And I just interrupted him and said, what do you mean? He says, well, things like milk, they have added hormones. Well, that was like a big light bulb in my brain that said, if there are hormones in that food causing this to me, my kids will either not drink milk or we are figuring out what organic means right now. That was my very first step into what I call changing my diet towards a more plant-based way of eating. From there, I got connected with a very proactive breast cancer support group that supported nutrition intervention with cancer. In fact, they had people like Christina Perillo and Susan Silberstein come speak, which is how I met you and understood a whole lot more about the food path that I needed to not only understand, but apply. I would say it was literally food by food, change by change, that I began to turn my diet around. I have one clear example of how, well, two, but the main one, how food changed my outcomes, that I could see something was causing a good effect. In aggressive chemotherapy, there's always checking your blood, your white counts, your red counts, figuring out, are you holding up in terms of a physiological definition of health, so they can keep giving you chemotherapy treatments. Mm-hmm. Well, I was literally stair-stepping each treatment. By the third treatment, I could follow the drop in blood counts and knew by the fourth treatment, I was going to need a blood transfusion. It was that significantly debilitating to my red cells and white cells. It was between chemotherapy 3 and chemotherapy 4 that I heard that I needed to be eating more vegetables, and I needed to eat them in the quantity of 9 to 13 cups a day.
Yep.
Yep. And I thought, you know what? Let's figure it out. I don't know how I'm going to do this, but if eating changes something, let's figure it out. So I started upping my vegetable intake, completely letting the kids off the hook. This isn't for you guys. This is for mom. And they were appreciative.
I'm sure.
But between that 1 month or 3 week window, the next blood test proved that my blood counts stabilized. They didn't drop. That was significant to me. In fact, they stabilized throughout not only that course of chemotherapy treatment, but a second course of chemotherapy treatment, and then followed by radiation. I never dropped further than that low that said, watch out. And my body began to hold its own. That's when I knew something about eating this way was strengthening my immune fight from within me. That completely changed the course of food and understanding food in my life. And I've been on a path ever since to know what are the best foods and how do I help others rebuild and repair their immune system.
Beautiful, beautiful. There's always a bless in the mess, I say.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now, I'm very fascinated about your thesis about whole plant foods, and how they affect metastatic cancer survival. So can you tell us about that and something about the case that you studied?
Absolutely. In fact, this was, by this time I was working with individual patients, some cancer, some other chronic illness, but the effect was the same on the immune system when a diet of whole plant foods, meaning they grew in the ground, they look like vegetables or fruit or a whole grain like brown rice. They did not come out of packages where they had been processed. So using that definition of whole plant foods, I also, through my master's program, was highly aware, and through my journey in terms of my own discovery of foods and their power on health, is that traditional medical conversations would not include plants or food in the same breath, other than eat whatever you want, just don't lose weight.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept thinking, how do I get this conversation about diet that completely transformed my outcome from 2 years to now 18? How do I get that in there? Well, through the university program, I deliberately focused my studies on what are the research articles on vegetables, fruits, green tea, grains. What's the research saying? Well, there's not a whole lot in terms of things that medical oncologists will listen to, because they want far more detailed studies than can be done on food. But a new science was emerging called epigenetics. And epigenetics simply is the study of changes in gene function, particularly alterations on a gene. Now we're recognizing it in the media, SNPs, that allow the genetic code to move forward, but it's changed or transformed. If transformed badly, that can lead into cancer and tumor growth. Most of the listeners here today will be highly aware of new therapies for cancer on the market called immunotherapy. Well, that's coming out of this field of epigenetics. But the exciting thing for me is that epigenetics is showing that food, whole plant foods, vegetables, and as your biggest key, they turn on a gene or turn off a gene. So even if a gene is turned on for cancer, by eating what your body requires to fight back, you can turn it off. You can shut cancer down. In fact, something significant in the research in 2013 is the World Health Organization came out with a statement that was like a lightning rod shocking the oncology community. And that statement is, cancer is both preventable and treatable with nutrition and lifestyle changes.
Wow.
And that completely shocked oncology world. So the discussion is on the table. You mean food matters? Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, now the case study. The man I worked with was 64 years old. He had esophageal cancer that had metastasized, and he was not just fighting what was in his throat, he was fighting what had gone to his lungs and liver as well. So he was in pretty desperate shape when he came to me. He was diagnosed at stage 4. He was pre-diabetic. He had spastic bowel syndrome, sleep apnea, on tons of medications. He ate horrible and primarily liked diet soda, alcohol, and anything that was fast food. So getting him to recognize that changes need to be made, over a period of about 4 months, we took what was a desperate cancer fight, and he had literally 6 weeks to live when he came to me. And now 4 months later, his labs are looking good. His oncology team is saying, wow, we might be able to do surgery on you at some point, but let's just get through the summer. He continued on this path with me. I met with him for well over a year. So 6 weeks went well beyond a year, where he began eating things like salad and stir fries and beans and rice, gave up diet soda, and let me know that he felt better from an energetic point of view than he's felt in his whole life. He dropped weight that was needed to be lost, got into a normal BMI, felt fantastic. And he and his wife couldn't have been happier to see an outcome of desperation turned around to living life much more fully than could have been expected with a stage 4 diagnosis.
Wonderful.
And the change was due to, can you eat what I call whole plant foods? Fruits, not abundantly, but some, vegetables, leafy greens, beans, they matter to health. They matter to normal, healthy physiology.
Wonderful. That's a very exciting case. Would you say that nutrition can be used alongside of or instead of conventional cancer treatment? I've seen both in my work with patients.
I would say absolutely. In fact, I would say that if you're going to do standard oncology therapy, whether it's brand new cutting edge immunotherapy or not, you must add the diet piece.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't add the diet piece, how can you expect any other outcome than what medical oncology will give you? Here's how I talk about it with some of my patients is, number one is, if you thought you were doing well, just assuming that you weren't already so sick, but if you thought you were doing well before cancer, then why should you assume that your body is going to be better after oncology treatment to continue fighting for a long life?
Mm-hmm.
If the body fails before it gets cancer, you got to do something different if you're going to expect to survive oncology treatment and then move forward into a longer survival outcome. That's one of the things that I would say. And the other is food matters to your body's ability to feel better with drugs that are making you feel sick. And I have seen the power of plant foods to have people walking into an infusion room, those that I work with, and looking around at the people who are getting chemotherapy and saying, oh my goodness, do I look like that? And they walk out going, no, I have color in my cheeks, I have energy. I mean, they're not perfect, healthy specimens, but they have far more health visible in their actual bodies than many who just eat whatever people put in front of them.
Yes, and I always talk to my patients about the fact that we're all dying of a terminal illness called living, right?
Yeah, right.
So the only thing we've really got going for us is quality of life for as long as we can.
Absolutely.
And when you look at it that way, and you look at the fact that most conventional treatments are going to compromise quality of life, and of course that's the choice of the patient. We don't tell them whether they should or should not follow the recommendations of their oncologist. But let's assume that they are taking conventional treatment. They have the power to make a huge difference in the proposed quality of life that they're likely to have to put up with, compromise quality of life that they're going to have to put up with. As you say, they can make a big difference. So this patient whom you worked with, the metastatic esophageal patient, he was only given a month and a half to live.
Correct.
He lived longer than a year.
Oh my goodness, he lived well over 2 years.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
And he had excellent quality of life.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. He got back to fishing and boating and going down to the shore, which was his favorite activity to do, always hanging out with friends. It was great. Any rate, all I can say is that the main thing with him is that he learned to eat in a way that supported his immune status, rather than simply saying, well, whatever people give me is okay.
Mm-hmm.
He learned to choose the best foods. I'm a big fan of talking to each person I work with about your immune system and how you make it strong through food. Your immune system doesn't get stronger through oncology treatment. And I'm not saying that oncology treatment doesn't have a positive effect to support surviving cancer, but it is going to suppress immune function. That's why the labs are done so often. What I'm working with in terms of asking people to eat this way is not to say this is better than treatment, but alongside of oncology treatment, this is what holds your immune system up so that when oncology treatment hopefully ends, you keep going. You're not depleted. You've actually been working with your body all along. Supporting the immune system is the number one focus of surviving cancer. By the way, that's why current therapies in oncology are now talking about immunotherapy, support the immune system.
And we have some patients who have either they're not candidates for conventional therapy, or they have failed on conventional therapy, or they just don't want any conventional therapy. And if those patients choose to engage in lifestyle practices and complementary and alternative medical procedures that support their immune system, very often they do exceedingly well. And we don't want to leave the impression that diet is the only way we can support the immune system, right? Because there are a lot of other factors as well, and we've written about them on our website, and I'm sure you talk to people. I know you've studied that in my training, and there are many ways to get that immune system strong, but you can't do it without a good basic diet.
And that's the point. If the foundation isn't strong, you can't repair the way you want to. Mm-hmm. Drugs only go so far. Radiation, chemotherapy only goes so far. Immunotherapy or hormone therapy only goes so far. But you've got to start looking at the foundation of what health is built on. And it's going to involve some changes in food and lifestyle.
For sure. And that dietary change not only will help minimize the side effects of the treatments, but actually make the treatments more effective if that's the path you have chosen.
Absolutely. And that's the main thing I share with my patient load is if you add this piece, it makes chemotherapy radiation more effective. And that's good news. It doesn't interfere. Eating real food does not interfere with treatment.
And, that's such a disappointing issue when oncologists tell patients, I don't want you to do anything nutritional because it might interfere with your treatment. That is a statement made out of ignorance, not out of knowledge.
Yes, there is plenty of research out there now and accumulating by the bucket loads now through epigenetics and beyond that real food does not interfere with conventional medicine or chemotherapy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, so you are one of my graduates from my holistic cancer training program, and I just would like you to just give me, you've said some very nice things, and if you could just share them with our listeners. This is my legacy. This is my way to make sure that there are health professionals all over the world who will be continuing the work that I began almost 40 years ago. So please share with them what that training has meant to you.
Well, I was exceedingly privileged to be part of that training because I hold you, Susan, in such high esteem.
Thank you.
You profoundly changed my life with the principles that you teach in that course on how to understand, apply, and deliver to someone who's struggling the information that gives them tools, that gives them hope, that gives them a way to fight beyond just the standard protocols. Your course is hugely beneficial to someone working with a cancer patient because you spend a lot of time on how to listen, how to evaluate with that person in front of you, where are the things that hurt beyond just being told you have cancer. Mm-hmm. There's more in life than just the diagnosis of cancer. There's often emotional competing vibes, stress, work relationships, home, family relationships. There's a lot that needs to be taken into account and not ignored. Oncology doesn't take any of that into account. They just, there's a tumor, we got to either cut it out, burn it out, do something to it. And that's what they do. But a supportive practitioner gives a safe space for that person not only to fight cancer, but maybe for the first time become whole in many other areas of their life.
Sometimes that will help fight cancer all by itself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And by being a good listener, which your course teaches, that's one of the most profound things that's there. But you go on from that, and you also explain many of the holistic alternative practices, especially including nutrition, that are valuable for boosting the energy of that patient, bringing balance to the digestive tract, protection from harsh chemicals so that they don't create a secondary illness out of just the drugs that are being administered. So you give a lot of researched technical information in that course, but you also give the practical, how do you sit with someone and give them room to talk, to cry, to struggle, and to find in their own experience this thing called hope that gives them the fight they need to really move forward.
Well, thank you for that wonderful, wonderful endorsement. I didn't expect one quite that glowing, but thank you. Thank you. So our listeners can go to the BeatCancer.Org website and check out the certification program for holistic cancer coaches and educators. And Beth, I'd like to end this interview. It went so quickly. You have a favorite saying about beating cancer that I love, and I want you to share that with our listeners today.
I'd be happy to. In fact, this is the motivating message of my practice, and I use it often with my clients, and that is, you beat cancer or any chronic illness by how you live, why you live, and what you eat to live.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Beth. Say that one more time. I want to hear it one more time.
You beat cancer or any chronic illness by how you live, why you live, and what you eat to live.
Thank you so much for joining us on the Beat Cancer Answer. If you learned just one thing today about how to prevent, cope with, or beat cancer, then we have succeeded in our mission. For more information or assistance, visit our website at BeatCancer.Org. Remember to sign up for our educational email series and get your free gift. Join in the conversation on Facebook, Twitter, or Google+, where you can meet others who think just like you. We appreciate all of your feedback and love your suggestions. Please also remember to rate us on iTunes. Your positive ratings help us to get discovered so we can save more lives. Thank you again for listening, and best wishes for good health from all of us at BeatCancer.Org.